children of Scotland would like to say thank you to Nicola, our First Minister of Scotland.
We are so grateful. Thank you for always
keeping us safe, working so hard, for being strong for us. Thank you for caring for every individual life and for always thinking about the children of Scotland. Thank you, Nicola. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We oppose the use of children as political pawns and the indoctrination of children as well. Now, that clip I showed at the beginning there was from STV. Now, let's be fair, I'm not sure if the SNP had anything to do with creating it. I'm sure the people who did were SNP supporters. How on earth that got broadcast on a television network without comment, I cannot imagine. But it just indicates the sort of mindset some people have got. They're quite happy to use children as political pawns. It's not just the SNP. I mean, this is equally wrong.
So we've got to talk about politics. So you've got to say what you think about UKIP.
I think they're completely nuts.
Well done.
See, children of this sort of age, they're too young to understand. They're too impressionable. Now, if you want to speak to your children and try and win them over to your political philosophy, that's absolutely fine. But don't try and parade them in demonstrations and make them into sort of mini political activists. And that certainly shouldn't be happening in school, and it certainly shouldn't be happening from the government. Now, sadly, that is exactly what does happen in Scotland at the moment, and part of the way that happens is through the Children's Parliament. Now, the Children's Parliament is the tip of the iceberg, but what you see here involves a few children, but it's broadcast more widely to a lot of other children in school, and it sets the tone in Scottish education.
On the 6th of March, we met with the Scottish Cabinet to follow up from our very first meeting last year. It was first name terms like Nicola and John, and everyone was just being extremely nice.
What should really be happening with these children is they come to the Parliament, have a tour, maybe sit down with an MSP, ask some questions, real questions though, that children would actually ask, like how much should you get paid, or why can't we have the chip van outside the school anymore? But this is very different. The adults claim that they're treating the children like adults, but they're not really. And the children feel like they're being treated like adults, but they're not really. What's really going on is one lot of adults who are on the government side are telling the children what to say, and then the government are happily listening to it, knowing full well that it's just a charade.
The first thing we did at the Cabinet was to explain that we were children's human rights defenders.
So these children all robotically, uniformly are children's rights defenders. That's the mission. I mean, these kids are just the foot soldiers obeying the orders of the adults who are manipulating them.
The thing that we mainly brought to the Cabinet was that the United Nations Convention's rights were the things that kept children happy, healthy and safe.
Rights keep children happy, healthy and safe? Well, actually, I think it's primarily parents that do that for children. But, who keeps them healthy? Well, the NHS contributes to that significantly. Not having the right to healthcare, it's the actual healthcare that makes the difference. Your right to be happy. I mean, do rights make you happy? Can you claim the right to be happy if you're feeling a bit miserable? I really don't know. I mean, if the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child was abolished tomorrow, would the children of Scotland become unhappy, unhealthy and unsafe? I don't really think so. But the message they get is rights are the heart of human goodness. In fact, rights and human goodness, they're basically the same thing.
A few of the recommendations were to involve children in teacher training.
They want children involved in teacher training. I mean, they already are. Children get taught by trainee teachers, and often they make their life hell as well, misbehaving and being really cheeky. But they're not talking about that. They want to go and share their expertise with the teachers. In other words, teach the trainee teachers how to be nice to them. In fact, more than that, tell them that they need to love them. So the children are demanding to be loved by their teachers. So they don't want the teachers to be like Mr. Not... Well, sorry, they do want them to be like Mr. Not Shush. In other words, teachers should always be letting kids speak. I mean, actually, a big part of teaching is getting the kids to stop talking once in a while and concentrate on what they're doing. But the kids are getting the opposite message. It's a bad teacher who stops them from talking. So what's that going to do? It's giving the impression that the children are judges over their teachers. They're the experts. The teachers should really do the things the way the kids want. And if they're not, well, obviously the teacher needs to adjust things. And it obviously undermines the authority of teachers.
To make sure that guys and girls are treated fairly.
Okay, gender equality, needless to say, indoctrinating them into their brand of grievance feminism.
And most importantly, being unfairly.
So adults need to become unfieties, just like Nicola. Remember, we're on first name terms here. In other words, the children are demanding that all adults be like Nicola. If only all adults were like Nicola, how happy, safe and healthy all kids would be. So what you might ask is an unfiety. Well, an unfiety is someone working in the government, council, social work, school, third sector who wishes to signal their virtue. But the definition they give is basically a load of waffle, but I'll just pick up on one point of it. It says, an unfiety helps children to learn the values of social justice. Social justice, a contentious political philosophy that's at the heart of the SNP's thinking, and to be honest, also the Conservatives and all the other parties in the Scottish Parliament, but it's one with which I disagree, but that doesn't stop them indoctrinating the children into it completely openly. I mean, this is not a secret. This is stated openly. They think that's the job of every adult, to induct children into this way of seeing the world politically. Let's look at the website to do with this unfiety business. Who've we got? Nicola Sturgeon, obviously John Swinney, a couple more SNP MSPs. Now, of course, we need to be balanced. We don't want to be too pro-SNP. So in order to get some balance, we'll also have a Green MSP in there as well. And this whole thing is paid for by the Scottish Government, obviously. He who pays the piper calls the tune. Here we've got a picture of Nicola with some of her mates. And here we've got a picture of Nicola with some of her mates round at her house.
I think Scotland's made a lot of progress because they're now taking in that the rights will be embedded in Scottish law.
We have also confirmed that next year, 2019, we will take the next step towards incorporation of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child into Scots law. It's something I feel very passionate about.
I don't know about you, but when my kids were that age, they were just desperate to see the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child passed into Scottish law. In fact, they spoke of little else, I don't think. I mean, it's obvious they've just been fed these lines. But in this video, no sooner have the kids demanded it, that following on immediately in the same video, Nicola has done it. Thanks be to Nicola.
Adults need to realise that children do have rights.
When it comes up on the news, like this is now a law, you have to follow it, people will realise, and the people who maybe don't treat their kids as well as they should, they'll say it and they'll think, maybe I am not being quite fair on them.
So a new era will dawn. Child abusers will now think, now's the time to stop. Now that the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child is the law, I'll stop abusing the child. As though somehow child abuse wasn't already illegal, which obviously is. But this is a message to all the adults. So these children are being taught they need to promote their rights to pretty well all adults, apart from the especially enlightened ones in the government, to get them to be fair to them. And it's planting the seeds of grievance and frankly stroppiness in children. And it's not creating the right attitude and structure of relationship between adults and children in society. A couple more things from their website. This is about the issues that the children brought up at the Parliament. Bullying. Adults should spend less time on investigating and punishing behaviour and more time on fixing relationships. So if someone beats someone up and leaves them black and blue, the main thing is they make friends again. If a pupil thumps a teacher, we don't need to investigate and punish. The main thing is trying to fix the relationship. Someone smashes a window, it doesn't really matter. As long as the teacher and the pupil are friends again after, then all is well. Adults need to consider bullying as if every child in Scotland is being bullied. It's that serious. So that might indicate a little lack of perspective there. So the children are saying, make sure all children and families can access financial, housing and mental health services quickly if we need support. I mean, you can just imagine those words freely flowing from the mouth of a sort of 10-year-old, can't you? That's just the sort of thing they say. I mean, this is so brazen, the way the children are being used, but they get away with it because no one challenges it. A defender of children's rights should be a fusion of Neil Armstrong, Robin Hood and a dragon. They need to wear a badge so that people know they care about children and their rights. You see what they're doing here? They're presenting being a so-called human rights defender as the epitome of noble moral cause. So if you want to be a hero in your life, this is the best thing you can do. It's the highest possible calling. And say it's like a religion substitute. How can Scotland make sure that adults understand that children are people too, with feelings and worries that matter? Implication, kids, there's a real problem that adults don't think children are people, which is just not true. People do think adults ignore the feelings and worries of children? Not at all. That is not a widespread problem. But they're priming the children to feel aggrieved, and they're making them always assume that there's a very high probability that some adult just couldn't care less about them. What sort of message is that to give to kids? So who's to blame for this whole thing? I blame the Conservatives, because they sit idly by while the whole education system is converted into a training camp for political activism. Now, in a democracy, the idea is that excesses are reined in by the opposition parties. But if the opposition are blind, abuse of power just grows unhindered.